Hello friends, welcome to my channel Creating Essence. I am Megan. Thank you so much for stopping by today. I wanted to answer the question that I get a lot, especially when I'm doing my meal planning and grocery haul videos. And that is, how do you get your kids to eat that food? Or how do you deal with picky eaters? Things of that nature. With our first child, she was born allergic to soy and peanuts. So we had some things we had to avoid, and that really kind of got us started on the track of less preservatives, because there's soy lecithin and vegetable oil, which, handy tidbit for you, if you didn't know, when something is labeled as having vegetable oil, 99.9% of the time, that is soybean oil. But at that time, we really were not in a good financial position. We didn't buy baby food. I made baby food because I needed to avoid preservatives. So I would buy a sweet potato and cook it up in the oven, mash it up, and separate it into little ice cube trays. And each day for my husband, before I left for work, because he worked days and I worked nights, so we'd trade off, and I would have thawed the little cubes of food for her. I would get a bag of peas and I would steam those and puree them and freeze them in ice cubes. Necessity is the mother of invention, and baby food is actually really expensive when you look at the cost of those little jars. So I just bought the vegetables, made purees, and froze them for a couple weeks of food at a time. And as she got bigger, because of her food allergies, we just gave her regular food. By the time she was 2, she would love to sit down and just eat a bowl of salad. I've mentioned a few times how my first was super duper easy on me, and it's true. To this day, she is my most grace-filled, easygoing child, and her diet is included in that. She has always been willing to try anything because we raised her that way. But my first kind of laid the ground floor for eating, and that really there is no kid-friendly food. There is only food. Things like pre-processed chicken nuggets and corn dogs, and it's all just super processed garbage food to make kids excited about the novelty of how it looks. Hands down, there is no denying that kids will only eat how you teach them to eat. Children that are handed convenience foods and processed foods will learn that that's yummy food. Little kids that are fed vegetables and a wholesome diet will learn that that's yummy food. Now my kids like processed food too. They do. Give them a Happy Meal and they're like, whoa, that's so cool. I swear, cars only drive by when I'm trying to film. We started them all on what we were eating, mainly because we couldn't afford anything else. But then with my third, I learned what baby-led weaning was, and I went on from there. I'll leave a link in the info box below in case you haven't heard about baby-led weaning. It is not about weaning from a breast or bottle. It is about introducing food. But before that, I just couldn't afford the fancy things, so we just fed the kids what we were eating, and that was vegetables, that was whole fruit. It wasn't packaged baby foods. So we really don't do kid-friendly food, and that is probably the #1 thing. Another way that we avoid having picky eaters is that that's the food that's served. There really isn't an option. You can choose not to eat it, and that's totally fine. We don't force the kids to eat anything. I don't believe that food should be an aspect that someone uses as control in someone's life. I don't believe in making kids go hungry as discipline either. Food is nourishment for life. It is not a form of discipline, and is not something that should be withheld. Likewise, it's not something that should be forced on a child. But if a kid chooses to go hungry, they don't get snacks before the next meal. The other way, and probably the biggest way that we teach our kids not to be picky eaters, is that we drink water. It's really, really funny to me because on the large family parenting boards and things of that nature that I am a part of, at least once a month people come bring up the how many gallons of milk do you go through a week sort of thing. And families our size, with 7 people, 5 of which are small children, the average is 5 to 10 gallons of milk a week. Nutrition aside, come on, that's so expensive. That right there would add $60 to our weekly grocery budget. I'm not spending $120 extra on my bi-weekly grocery hauls for milk. If you look at the nutrition data, there is absolutely nothing in milk or juice as far as nutrients that is not available in exponentially higher nutrition content in other foods like whole fruits, whole vegetables, nuts, eggs, seeds, things like that. And they aren't necessarily expensive. Take, for instance, milk. Calcium. Everybody says calcium. You have to drink milk for calcium. Young kids need milk for the calcium. Do you know that the nutrition content in a single serving of broccoli is 10 times what it is in a single glass of milk? Eat broccoli. Spinach, the little pumpkin seeds, you can buy them raw, ridiculously cheap. Eat them that way or roast them up. We put them in our granola. You want to see our granola recipe? I'll put it in the info box below. Super cheap, easy, and it is so full of vitamin D and iron and calcium and so many other nutrients. So we drink water. We don't drink our calories. When kids are drinking empty calories, they are eating far less solid food. Those things would be the ways we avoid having picky eaters. But that's not to say that it's without complication. I know that it can be harder than just those things. My first child was born with multiple neurological issues, including oral muscular issues, and textures are really hard for him. When he was born, if he put anything in his mouth, it would go straight back and he would gag. Most people don't realize that when we put things in our mouths, instinctively we move them side to side so our mouth has a chance to process it before it goes down the hatch. He didn't do that. And he has had massive oral sensory issues his whole life because of it. And we had an incredible occupational therapy who did feeding therapy with him for quite some time when he was a toddler and preschooler, and that helped a lot. Since then, it's just been going slow. I don't set my kids up for failure. If there's something I know they don't like or that they struggle with, number one, they're allowed to pick it out. So, for instance, my third, she has no extra issues. She's just shown since she was little, she doesn't really like peppers. Now, if they're ground up in something, she, will let it pass, but she can pick it out in anything. She can notice that there's peppers in it without it even being obvious. And it's not like she's being obnoxious or anything. She just is like, oh, Mama, does this have peppers in it? So if there's something that my kids have truly shown they really don't like, they are welcome to politely push it to the side of their plate. I make scrambles and things for breakfast where I do onions and peppers and bacon and spinach and things like that, and then toss it up with eggs. I guess call it like an omelet, but I don't flip it, so we call it a scramble. And she knows if I serve a scramble with peppers in it, she just politely pulls out the peppers with a fork, puts them on the side of her plate, and eats the rest of it. And she's 7, and she's been doing this for years. And we're totally okay with that. But every once in a while, I will push my son with the sensory issues to try one bite of something new. And it's always a tiny bite, like a minuscule bite. And I'm not in it to torture him, and I don't set him up for failure. So if we are having something that is any kind of texture I know he can't handle, I don't even put it on his plate. He knows if we're having mashed potatoes and steamed green beans, he's gonna have twice as many green beans for his vegetable. And that's just the way it is, and he would rather have it that way than to have to try to eat some mashed potatoes. I also know the complications in another regard, in that my fourth was born with profound food allergies. And while we have, through hard work, healed much of them by holistically approaching his health and wellness, he still struggles. He's scared of trying foods. He has a few safe foods, and they are not particularly healthy. It's like bread and cheese. Just give the kid bread and cheese at any time. But that is not a balanced diet. That does not promote good health. But I understand why he's scared, because for the first 2 to 3 years of his life, any random thing he could put in his mouth could leave him in pain for days. And not just like a stomach ache. I'm talking if something at a restaurant was cross-contaminated with pork, he would have bleeding bowels and horrible pain and be screaming and writhing in pain for about 72 hours afterward until his body had fully flushed it out. If he had anything cross-contaminated with chicken or turkey or any kind of poultry meats, he would get croup. He would get a clear runny nose and croup and have breathing problems within 12 hours. And within 24 hours, his entire back and chest and rib cage would be broken out in eczema, and it would be like just torturous, and he would scratch it to bleeding so quickly. So all of those experiences have left him afraid of trying new things and afraid of a lot of foods. So we just go slow. We try the teeniest of tiny bites. That is also a reason why for us most meals are a protein and 2 vegetables. Because between Gabriel and Aaron, probably one of them can't have one or the other of them. So it just is easiest to work it that way. But I do make sure that my kids have a balanced diet and they eat a lot of vegetables. Snacks are things like fresh fruits and nuts and raw carrots. But snacks also don't happen unless the last meal that they ate was ate heartily. So I do know that it's not just set the food in front of a kid and they eat it or they starve. I know there are complications, but I also know that the things that can make it legitimately harder are few and far between. And I know from being a nanny for many years, even after I had kids, from being a teacher for a very long time, and from just interacting and having play dates and teaching at church and all sorts of communal gatherings at meals, that most kids aren't given the opportunity to explore real food for what it is. They're given what's deemed kid-friendly foods. They're given baby puffs, and they're given little tenders that are in the shapes of different things to entice them into eating some chicken-like product. But I know from experience that if you hand an 8-month-old a roasted Brussels sprout, he's going to play with it and probably peel off leaves, and he's going to taste it, and he's going to make funny faces, and then he's going to stick it back in his mouth and keep eating it. But in short, or in long, or whatever this was, that's how we don't have picky eaters. We have kids with extra needs, and we work within that, but we still only give them a balanced diet. If you have any questions, put them in the comment box below. Thank you so much for stopping by today, friends. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. And if you want to see more like this, hit that red subscribe button. Bye-bye.